my name is Tom Bosworth. I'm one of the founding members of the Athletics Pride Network, and joining me today are three other founding members from our APN. I'm going to introduce them all, and then we're going to learn a little bit more about their personal lives and their experiences within athletics, and of course being members of the LGBT plus community. So I'll start with the way my screen looks. I don't know how it is to you guys, but we'll start with the lovely Susie O'Connor. Give us a wave, Susie. She is a club runner for Wimbledon Windmilers, where she's an England athletics mental health champion, as well as a member of the London Frontrunners, which is the largest UK's largest LGBT running club. Susie transitioned gender 2 years ago, but in her professional life, she works for the Foreign Office. And she's had diplomatic postings all over the world, including Russia, USA, Germany and Turkey. So vast amount of experience from Susie. Next up, we'll go with Coach Andy. Andy Paul, give us a smile or a wave. Hello. He is based in Birmingham. He's a Birchfield Harrier, a sprint hurdles coach. And as I learned, he's an all-round sporting superstar, holding his school 100-metre record for over 20 years and then coaching the lad who broke it. He's got a vast experience within athletics, right from club level all the way up to national governing body level, and is currently the youth talent pathway at Birmingham University. And that brings us lastly, but not least, on to Ethan Akanni. Ethan is currently studying sports science at Loughborough. He tends to always be late.
Thanks for that.
A Bexley AC athlete, and he's certainly not late when it comes to competing, as he's had a lot of national success and he's competed for GB as a junior, and currently holds down 2 jobs as well, which puts most athletes to shame. He's a restaurant supervisor as well as a qualified sports massage therapist. So there you go. As you know, as you can hear, we have a whole range of experiences, and I'm really excited to where we're going to go. And so let's start at the beginning, I feel. And that's really, why did any of you ever join a running club, an athletics club? What were your ambitions? What were your main aims when you first started? Let's start with you, Susie.
Okay, so I came to running, or so organised running really, quite late in life. I turned into a bit of a couch potato, and I'd put on a fair bit of weight, and suddenly realised with shock one day how much weight I'd put on, and I decided I needed to go on a crash diet. And then I thought I'd better do a bit of exercise with that, and started running around the local playing fields and was chased by dogs, and I thought there must be a more fun way to run. And so I checked out where there was a local running club, and I found the Wimbledon Windmilers, my local club, very friendly, and I've never looked back. It's changed my life, running, literally changed my life. It's been so good for me, for my mental health, my friendship networks, and it's been brilliant.
So, yeah, why did I start? It was my mum's fault. It was kind of deemed to be that I joined an athletics club. My mum had been with Birchfield Harriers when she was a kid herself. She was a hurdler, high jumper. And she was ever telling me she went to the 1948 Olympics and watched that and thought it was amazing. So, yeah, I kind of joined because it was worth a try. I was pretty much the last to be picked in team sports, so thought giving something individual might be an idea. And, got into the sport that way. So I've been with Birchfield since I was 11 years old. And it's kind of given me a huge amount of really positive life experiences as an athlete, a very average one. And more lately as a coach and a sort of volunteer / club officer. But I love it. It's an amazing sport. It is open to so many. It's so diverse in terms of the events we offer as much as anything else. And great part of my life.
Go on then, Ethan.
So I've kind of always been like a sporty person, but when it came to school, like we used to have sports day and I used to always do the 100 meters. And I always won in like the early years, and then ended up winning again throughout the rest of my school like experiences. And so like my mum and brother suggested that I go down to the local club and sort of just try out a few things, see if I like training and competing. So I've kind of not really looked back since. But the year that I actually started was just after the Olympics in London in 2012. So like seeing that sort of like success and like seeing the joy of the people who had succeeded kind of sparked something in me, and like I wanted to feel something like that. And so like that's kind of been what's been driving me forward ever since, really.
So if anybody ever argues that there's no legacy to London 2012,
Exactly.
Ethan, you are the evidence. Excellent. Okay, well, Andy, I think what really interests me is you come from a position where, I'm reading your notes, you said to me that you wished you'd come out at an earlier point. You're not soon enough within athletics. And in regards to the other two on the screen here, you know, they're quite relatively new to coming out. Whereas I feel like we should start off with your experiences with this, because, you know, you're a little bit older.
Thanks. That's the second age joke you've made today.
I know.
Terrible. I'll get you back. I think when I was Ethan's age, the world was a very different place, and the role models I had, I suppose, certainly weren't in sport. There was none in sport that I could name now, or even look back and name. And so the role models I had were people on telly, and those who will go back this far will remember people like John Inman, who played a part on a show called Are You Being Served, which was possibly the campest, most stereotypical gay guy on the planet. Great actor, really funny, but I didn't relate to that, whatever you might say. And it was odd, and I don't know why I didn't relate to it, but I did find it funny, but didn't understand why. And I think that was kind of endemic of the whole of society at that point. If I didn't live in a community where it wasn't particularly upper class, middle class, whatever, it's just, you know, just a standard suburb of the country, and there wasn't anywhere for me to, or anyone to talk to, I suppose. So I think as and when I began to understand who I was, I felt more comfortable to say what I was, I suppose, but that took time. That's all. Did I suffer for it? Probably. Did I get identified as different? Most definitely at school, which also made it harder because I didn't know what I was. I don't think they knew what they were calling me either. So it took a little bit of time. So yeah, I came out to friends when I was teaching, after I'd finished my degree, after I'd gone into work. And it took a little bit of time. I don't think I actually really came out to anyone specifically in athletics. I think I've taken partners to award ceremonies with me and stuff like that. So, you know, people have met who I've been seeing and stuff, and that's probably the way to do it, or the way I did it. And it just kind of happened. I didn't feel a need to go, I am what I am, in the words of Gloria Gaynor. Just that's what I did at the right, you know, when it seemed appropriate. But I wish I'd been able to feel freer to do it sooner, definitely.
And you say, you know, I think you raised a really good point there. I think visibility is a big one. You know, you made a point at the start, you know, there wasn't any within sports then. Yeah. And I feel like we haven't really moved on that much at all, even today. No. But Ethan, what can you relate to there or see completely differently? You know, you are one of the most visible athletes, LGBT athletes within athletics. So, well, confidence.
Talking about visibility, actually, it was kind of you coming out publicly actually kind of helped give me the confidence to sort of come out to like my athletics friends, because I saw that there were mixed responses, obviously, but most of it was like quite welcoming, actually. Like it was quite overwhelming. So like coming out to, I only really came out to friends when I was younger. So like I came out to my close school friends and then a couple friends that I was close with in athletics. And they kind of helped me find that confidence as well. So like it's been like a mixture of loads of different things, sort of like seeing how far we've come since Andy was my age, for example. And it's kind of helped me to just sort of go out there and have my coming out story. So like with my Sky Sports article, I wanted to get like another positive coming out story out there. So then people like me who needed that confidence, needed something positive to sort of like give them the kick up the bum in a sense. So like there's more of that out there. So then hopefully more people can like be as confident as I was.
Yeah.
Susie, you obviously came to the sport for just purely fitness reasons rather than, you know, where these guys joined more an athletics club. But
Yeah.
surely it relates, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yes, it does. So I came to running, as I say, a bit later in life, and it was about maybe 5 or 6 years ago. So before I came out as trans or queer, and you know, so I had a kind of big bang coming out experience. I didn't sort of gradually tell a few trusted people. I did I told the world. I decided I'd put it off for far too long, and I just had to live my honest, authentic self, and that meant coming out in every bit of my life, including my running and my running clubs. And actually, so that was, you know, perhaps a slightly awkward part of my coming out, to be honest. Family was quite emotional. Work was quite straightforward because they're very supportive. Most friends were supportive. I was very nervous about coming out to my running club because, you know, you have different kind of relationships with people. Some people, you know, you're quite close to and you run with regularly, and others you kind of on nodding terms with. And when you come out as trans and you have a big change of, you know, visible appearance, you know, you think you're going to stand out, you're going to become a kind of, you know, object of curiosity, which I was very uncomfortable with. And it also meant, you know, you're going to have lots of those sort of separate discussions with different groups of people in the club at different sessions about, you know, your coming out. And I wasn't sure how I was going to handle that. So I kind of that was the one bit of my life I put on hold for a few months. And so what I did was I sought out, I'd heard that there was this great LGBT plus running club in London, the London Front Runners, and I sought them out and I joined up. And actually this was also a time when it was quite awkward for me because I was changing appearance. You know, the hormones were kicking in, I was changing body shape a bit. So, you know, I just want to get somewhere where I feel comfortable to run. And the Wind Milers were wonderful. They're just such a wonderfully open, accepting, you know, supportive community. And they you know, embraced me. They showered me with love and support. It was just what I needed at that time. And actually, interestingly, although it's, you know, this great LGBT plus running club, and they have brilliant inclusion policies, including for trans people, I was still the first trans runner they'd had in the club. And so, you know, we went on a journey together, but they were so good. So for about 6 months, I ran with the front runners kind of exclusively. And then I bumped into some old running friends locally, and they said, you know, and this was the first time they kind of seen me since I transitioned. And I said, "Oh, you're looking fabulous. You know, you seem so happy." And I said, "Yeah." And they said, "Well, why aren't you coming to the Wind Milers anymore? We're missing you." And I said, "Well, I'm a bit nervous." And they said, "Oh no, come on, everyone's going to be great. You know, we'll come with you to your first session and we'll support you." And they did. And the welfare officers, and I can't stress this highly enough, were in the club were fantastic. You know, they kind of got the message out to the coaches in advance so that, you know, they would kind of there wouldn't be too much of a surprise that someone's suddenly appearing in a totally different kind of presentation, and that they could support me if there were any issues, which there weren't actually. It was just all in my head. So, and since then I've been so enjoying being part of both clubs, and it's been brilliant.
Yes. For me, it's really kind of overwhelming and really great to hear. And it's so good how you went down, you managed to keep with both clubs in the end.
Yeah.
You sound like you've had an incredibly positive experience. And my next question to you all was going to be, I was going to start with you, Susie, but I feel like you've already covered it, is what are clubs doing? Are they safe environments for people to come out? And you mentioned, I think, the welfare officers are hugely important in this. I'll start with you, Ethan. Do you feel, obviously you have felt comfortable, but are clubs doing enough? And hearing what Susie kind of has started off, I guess.
I think it'd be really good if all clubs had some sort of like LGBT plus awareness training, like Susie said. Just so then when someone who identifies as something other than straight, essentially, like joins the club, then they'll know sort of what to do and how to make them feel comfortable. So it was relatively easy for me just because my club was so welcoming. So everyone was very accepting of the fact that I was gay. But I can only imagine like how different it would be for a trans woman or a trans man to join the club as well. So I think any sort of like training and like awareness building session would be extremely useful because it could add on top of like what we already have now.
Yeah. Andy, what do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think again, Susie's story is fantastic, and the fact that the welfare officers were so understanding and so in tune with what might be needed when Susie came back to her first club, if you like, that I think that's unfortunately probably unique, not because necessarily clubs are out there going, we don't want to look after every one of our members irrespective of gender or sexuality, but because I don't think they've ever seen it as a need, and therefore I just don't think they know what they need and know what they need to know, if that makes sense. So I'd agree with Ethan, the idea of education and helping the welfare officers, because every club has to have a welfare officer, but I wonder how many of those welfare officers that have been elected have a broad understanding of the issues that might come up to them, and are probably out there now within the club. And so I suppose actually helping those welfare officers better sell themselves and what they can do for the club members might be useful, as well as giving them an education in what to do when somebody comes up to them and says, I am going through transition, or I am gay, or I am lesbian, or, and dealing with that. Because given how much more easy it is for people in society to feel free and open about who they are, I think we need to make sure that clubs are ready, and I'm not convinced they are, but they could be easily, I think.
Susie, can you add on that? I feel like you've got first-hand experience, but I feel like definitely, obviously, there's probably more steps to be made.
Yeah. So obviously, I didn't really have to do much in the way of educating the London frontrunners, but in terms of the windmilers, it worked really well for me because they're just genuinely really nice people and they wanted to be supportive. But I was already a member, and I'm thinking about, well, what if I transitioned and then decided I wanted to join a running club, and I looked at the windmilers, what would give me confidence that that was going to be a kind of welcoming community if I didn't know anything about them? So I think there's a bit of work to be done by clubs in terms of just like, what kind of images do you have on your website? Do you have a kind of a well signposted statement of diversity and equalities policy, things like that, perhaps some pictures of club members, just with rainbow laces, things like that. All these little symbols can give confidence to people that, this is going to be a community I can join, that I can see that there are people like me, or at least there are allies there.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we come back to this visibility thing, and I think I'd love to hear, Ethan, on this. You went big with the visibility. You spoke to Sky Sports. What was what was your reaction? What was the reaction on social media? Your colleagues who might have known you were gay, but were they impressed? Did they speak highly of you doing it?
To be honest, yeah, like I said before, the responses were just absolutely overwhelming. Like, it was so nice because I had people from not only athletics but also from my school, and people that I just met like as I've made friends as I go through life, and everyone was just messaging me saying that they're proud of me to come out so publicly, and also they think it's important. They agree that it's important to get some more positive things out there, because it's not too widely talked about, people coming out and like the struggles that people have when they come out. So a lot of friends have asked me if like my experiences, essentially, like if I had struggled, what the negative effects were, who I felt like I couldn't tell, and why. And it's quite nice because I can sort of educate them, and then they can go on, and if they ever encounter someone else who is gay, bi, trans, or anything under the umbrella term LGBT+, then they'll be able to find like a new way to not necessarily deal with it, but like how to make them feel as like accepted and like comfortable as I did.
And just going off that, did you experience any negativity afterwards, or perhaps before?
None afterwards. However, beforehand, I didn't have too many homophobic experiences, but there have been cases where, so for example, in secondary school, I didn't necessarily get bullied, but I did feel a little bit singled out because I was the only like gay. Well, I was the only person that the whole year knew was gay, essentially. And at one point, it got out that I had a crush on someone else in my class, and that spread around the year like wildfire. And I got picked on for quite a few months for that. And it was just little things like that, but they kind of all built up in a way as well. So it's quite nice to see like such a big contrast, and like the tables have literally turned so drastically that it's nice to see that even my generation, who have like grown up in LGBT awareness, has even changed to become more welcoming, and like I feel like we've developed a lot more allies, which is just amazing.
Yeah.
Do either of you guys have anything to add to that?
No, I think, as I said earlier, Tom, I think Ethan's experience at his age is a great one, and yes, always in school, I think that's where education helps kids understand what is the right and the wrong thing to say. And my experience, if somebody had found out I got a crush on somebody at school, the result probably wouldn't have been quite the same. It would probably have been some sort of beating up around the corner kind of thing, because it was such a negative representation of the LGBTQ community at the time, and those initials didn't exist, so that's how far back we're talking here. And so it would have been a different reaction. I have to say, within my sport, and within the squad of athletes I currently work with, probably every athlete I've ever worked with, I don't think I can ever recall a negative situation. And actually, they're hugely protective to an extent as well, which is really nice. They are hugely vocal if they heard anything that was mildly negative. I absolutely am sure they would be very, very vocal about it, because they know me as a coach that they respect and they want to work with, not as somebody who happens to be gay. And I think I think it comes back to a word that Susie used earlier, which was authenticity. I think if the representation of people like ourselves and others as being our authentic self makes it so much easier to educate if people see us not first as gay, but happen to be whilst actually being an outstanding athlete, or an outstanding coach, or a great member of the club, whatever it might be. That's not what we're judged on in the first instance.
So would you say that actually, I'll start with you here, Susie, running and being part of athletics has probably massively benefited you and given you the confidence to be you?
Oh, absolutely, it has. I mean, if I think about the two clubs I'm a member of, that's a community of over 1,000 people who are all there for me, who are all supportive. I mean, I can't overstate how important that is, because it's quite a stressful period. You have all kinds of self-doubt when you come out, and so that's been wonderful. And just I don't know how other people experience running, but for me, it's kind of like a Zen sort of a feeling. It takes me out of myself. It takes all my worries and stresses away. And people are very keen these days on mindfulness. But for me, running has always been that kind of exercise of mindfulness and just living in the moment. And so it's been so good for me in that sense. And so any stresses around, how I fit into society or what people think of me, that, running's such a great relief from all of that. So that's great. The one thing I would to add, kind of relevant to the last point, though, is that I think they're probably quite low numbers so far of trans people who are active in athletics clubs. And so there are some structural things there at the moment which make you feel a bit other than the other runners, in that, trans people don't fit neatly into the athletics sort of gender-based rules. So, for example, I run and I'm fantastically supported by the women's cross-country team in the Wimbledon Windmilers. But because of the competition rules, I have to be entered as a non-scoring runner. So I can't score any points for my team. So there are some little kind of discriminatory things related to being trans in athletics, which I personally would like to see revisited.
And that, that's, I guess, out of the two, it's great that the community isn't that. It's kind of where we take the sport on from it. And
absolutely, yeah. No, so the Wimbledon Windmilers absolutely went into bat for me with the different leagues that we're part of, and some of the competition organisers for kind of external events, and so they're doing their best, but there is a kind of structure of kind of rules that comes down from the IOC ultimately, I think, and filters in theory all the way down to grassroots. And so anyway, I don't want to sort of turn this into a sort of a platform for demanding to rip the system down today, but I just mention it in terms of my experience and how trans people might feel in athletics.
Yeah, that's very important as well. Andy, you've got something to add for that?
Yeah, and I think it demonstrates how sport can be something for everyone, but at the moment, because of the way in which it's designed or has been designed, it is top down to an extent, and that's not necessarily a problem. It is what it is, and most people enter sport in order to be good at it or to get better at it, and the end result of that, the ultimate end result, is standing on a rostrum and being handed a very big trophy or an Olympic gold medal. So that's the ultimate. But in this day and age, what we need to think about is how much more can sport do for people. So yeah, I think if we can, then great. And our clubs are the starting point for that, I think, as we've all already identified.
Ethan, you were nodding along to what Susie was saying just before. With the what running and athletics can offer you, and just being you in your actual day-to-day life and the confidence it's given you. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, so I couldn't agree more with Susie. So like, it's always sort of been a sort of escape for me. So like, it's been a way for me to get away from any like school or university stress, any stress in my day-to-day life, and it gives me an outlet for a way to sort of not necessarily express myself, but sort of showcase what I can do as well. And it's something that I can't really live without anymore. It's something that's like become my life, and like I'd love that. I just love it so much.
Yeah. Tom, can I just come back with another thought, which is just about how LGBT people kind of relate to their running clubs. And the other thing I would say is that one of the great things that coming out gave me was so much more self-confidence. And so after I did come out in the Wimbledon Windmilers, I started to think, how can I make a difference here? How can I help the club to become a better club? And so I got involved in trying to bring the Run and Talk program, which supports mental health through running, sponsored by England Athletics. I helped to bring that program with some others in the club into Wimbledon Windmilers, and it's been a fantastic success. But what it's also done is it's meant that people have seen me giving something back to the club, and and I keep being begged to be on the committee, and so I have much more profile in the club than I ever used to. But while I was still in the closet, I used to turn up to sessions and do my run and then go home again, and I always was a bit awkward with getting more deeply involved in club business and so on, and didn't always feel comfortable with the social side of it. And so now I'm kind of, I feel, that I'm much more a kind of active part of that community. And so I think if you can give something back, and if you can showcase, what a positive contribution LGBT people can make to athletics, I think that's fantastic.
Do you think that's because you were spending that little bit less time worrying about who you are, almost wasting energy?
Yeah, absolutely.
And now you can plow it into, giving something back to the club, or running faster, or or whatever it is, training harder.
Yeah, you put your finger on it, Tom. I mean, it's not just in running; it's throughout my whole life. I shriveled as a person because I was just so crushed by not being myself. I probably didn't even realize the extent to which that was true. But after I came out, it was like a great weight had lifted, and I suddenly thought, all these things I thought I should do in life, well, what's stopping me now?
Yeah.
And so I've been able to be a much kind of more giving member of my running club, I think, which has been brilliant.
Yeah. And I think, Ethan, you've already competed at, obviously, for a very high level with GB juniors, but have you found the same there? And has much changed? I mean, I've seen you had a very successful, if not short, indoor season this year when we had some sport going.
Yeah.
Has it contributed, do you think?
I think massively, yeah. So I think the moment when I really noticed it was almost a year ago now, where I came out to my family. And that is where, like Susie said, it kind of felt like the weight of the world was lifted off my shoulders, and I could literally just be myself. Like, I could be me. And that confidence translated into everything in my life, but especially in athletics, because I was always, like you said, I was always wasting energy worrying about what my family would think and like how they would react, and all the possible negative things were just running through my mind. And like when all of that was silenced, it just allowed me to use that energy that I was wasting on something useful, like training. And like you said, this indoor season, has been like the best season of my career. So it just kind of goes to show how something that you didn't think was so big can have like a massive effect on you just generally.
And something I'm quite interested in, how do you feel, you've always been quite confident, as you say, confident in yourself. Within that GB setup, did you feel a little bit more withdrawn when you were a junior, and kind of views of it going forward if you hopefully make senior teams and that? Is that in the back of your mind, or is it just not part of it?
At first, I wasn't too comfortable coming out to people, like within the GB and England settings, just because I didn't really feel like I was that close with them. So like at the time, it felt like a secret that I kind of wanted to only tell like close friends and stuff. But it's never really hindered me making friends. It's just sort of something that I leave out of conversation unless they particularly like keep asking about it.
Okay.
But I think now, like, if I were to be on another team, I could feel comfortable to talk to anyone about it, and like I could drop it in there as well. Not necessarily feel like I have to keep it to myself, and I can, just talk about it essentially.
And you're nodding away there. You got anything to say?
No, I'm just laughing at him, that's all.
Thanks.
That's all right. No, I think it's interesting as a coach, and this is part of the stigma we've had to face within the community, I think, that as a coach you go, oh, what are people going to assume if I tell them I'm gay? And that was a huge difficulty for me. That was probably the most difficult piece for me, not telling anybody I was gay, but more being a coach and then telling somebody I was gay, which is a really, unfortunately, I think, endemic of how society looks at sexuality quite often for all the wrong reasons. It labels you in very much the wrong way. So I think actually the conversation that we all started having last year and that brought us to this point has been so good in that it's given us an opportunity to look at ourselves in a different way, look at the strengths we bring to the sport, look at what we bring to our clubs. And I'm lucky enough, I think, that the question of what I am has never been the first one asked. It's whether I can do the job I'm doing. And I'm really proud of that. So, I've enjoyed working with the people I work with. It's been a pleasure to meet you guys in the last few months as well and get to know you better. And I think that's really heartening for the future and heartening for those that come after us, really. So I think, I've enjoyed the sport. I love the sport. I think it's really open already. We just need to keep, I think we've talked about education already today, and I think that's a crucial part of it. And if we can help in some little way, each of us, then great, whether as an athlete or as a coach or, a club runner, all of us matter in our own way, and we can bring something really useful to the sport. Sorry, I went off on a tangent then, but
No.
Yeah. Hit all the right points.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you bring us kind of round full circle there, really. And Andy, let's start with you. Where you look back to where you joined athletics and the reasons for it. Now we've hit the points of kind of visibility and being a coach or a runner first before being gay, lesbian, trans. That's the most important thing. But so why'd you do it now? Why are you still here?
I think I'm a reasonably good coach, and I think I can contribute something to the athletes I work with. Is the reason I'm in the sport. I also I'm quite stubborn. So in most of the things I take on with the sport, as you all probably know from the conversations we've had, that if I think something needs fixing, I'll try and use a hammer to knock the door down and get it fixed, because it's the right thing to do. So I do it because I think my sport, actually our sport, can be 1,000 times better than it currently is in lots of ways, and we keep missing opportunities. And I'm going to rant slightly, so I'm going to slow down and stop. So why am I still in it? Because it's a great sport that can be better, and I think I can contribute something to that process. There you go.
Well, I almost didn't want to stop you, but
everybody else say something quick.
No. Susie, well, I reckon your journey short has transformed.
Yes. And actually, can I just say something kind of more related to the last question? Because
Yeah.
Actually, this has been great therapy for me, and I've just learned something. I've just reflected on the fact that, you know, we were talking about how coming out can give you self-confidence, but actually, I've just kind of recognized that my immersing myself in running, discovering the joy of running, and these great communities of runners, actually, I think that helped me to come out. So I think the process has worked both ways. I wonder if I'd have been brave enough to come out if I hadn't become a runner first.
Wow.
So that's something I wanted to share.
Yeah.
And going forward, so when I, you know, relatively recently started running, I don't think I had any real goals. And then you quickly start pushing yourself and you realize, you know, you can do more and more, and you're chasing PBs and trying different distances and all of that. Sadly, you get to a point as a runner when all your PBs are behind you. And so you just have to focus on other things. There's a great measure, actually, age-related, you know, percentage, which you know is a good thing to kind of keep you honest as a runner. But I think my main goal is to stay involved and to keep running. And I've seen some of my running friends have to stop running because, you know, of dodgy knees or something at some point, and I would dread the day I couldn't run anymore. So that's my big ambition, is just to keep running until I die, and to stay involved with my clubs, and to, you know, just to enjoy it, but to keep pushing myself at the same time as well.
Yeah, Ethan, good luck following that.
Yeah, Susie, that, like, you kind of said it all in one. Like, I feel like it's something that I'm never going to want to give up, even after my professional career, because it's taught me so many things. It's allowed me to meet so many new people. Like Andy said, I wouldn't have met any of you guys if it wasn't for athletics as well. And I think it's not really, so my change. So to go back to the question, sorry, my ambitions and like goals for athletics haven't really changed. So like I said, when I was younger, I kind of got inspired by the Olympics, and that's like the Olympics. To go to the Olympics is just a dream that I've always wanted, and that's something that keeps burning the fire within me. And to go to other international competitions like Worlds, Europeans, or Commonwealth Games, or even all of them, that's kind of just what is driving me forward, and that's what I always want to do. And I think, sorry.
Go on.
I think now that we have the Athletics Pride Network as well, it's kind of like added to my goals as well. So I want to help like the LGBT community within athletics, and just make athletics a more like welcoming and sort of inclusive sport as well.
We definitely all nodded at the same time then.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, guys, thank you so much for your honesty and being so open, and especially as we've all said, you know, we haven't known each other that long, but our community within athletics and of the LGBT community just kind of gives you that strength, as we've discussed. So thank you ever so much. Thank you guys for watching at home. If you've clicked on us through YouTube, we have a Facebook group. We'd love you to come and join that, regardless if you're part of the LGBT community or just an ally. You can just request to join that, and it's a safe space. And if you heard anything you are interested in or want to learn more or have any questions, you can pop them onto there. If you watched it through the Facebook page, stick some comments on, say what you think, and we'd love to kind of answer any more questions, talk about it more, and hopefully we can get involved or in depth even further with these guys individually, and we'll be doing more panels and more one-on-one question and answers and sessions coming up, maybe even in person. We might actually get to see each other again one day. So from me, from the guys, thank you ever so much for joining us. Take care, stay safe. Bye-bye.